you have discussed this phrase earlier, and phrase first appeared in Hamlet and His Problems by TS Eliot. Although it was not TS Eliot who used this term for the first time, rather it was used by American writer Alaston. Alaston has used this for the first time. Alaston was an American writer, and it was introduced into literature by Washington. However, and Alaston has introduced this in the lecture of art. However, it was popularized by T.S. Eliot in his essay Hamlet and His Problems. So here you must remember that this phrase was first used or coined by American writer Alaston. The title of the book was Lectures of Art by Washington Alaston. There is some mistake here. Okay, so this was first coined by American writer Washington Alaston. You must make a note of this. The full name of this philosopher was Washington Alaston, who introduced this term in his book Lectures of Art, and T.S. Eliot popularized it in his Hamlet and the Problems. So it's all about a way of expressing the emotion in the mind of the reader. So what is the object of the author? The same object, the same objective has to pass in the mind of the audience or the reader. So that is called correlation between the objective of the writer and the reader. So whatever the emotion the writer wants to create, it needs some setup to create that emotion in the mind of the reader. Like as Pratigya said, if we want to create some romantic scenes in the mind of the reader, we must have such type of settings. It should be raining, it should be a very beautiful landscape, there should be flowers all around, waterfalls. These are some scenes which describe some of romantics. But if we're talking about creating some horror, then some screeching of owls, barking of the dogs, some music, horror music. So that kind of setting is required to create a horror scene in the mind of the reader. So that type of correlation between the plot and the setting of the play is required. So here correlation means two things. One is correlation between author's idea and the reader's idea. Both of them should correlate, and it is only possible when author is able to correlate the plot, I mean the story, and the setting. So here mainly we will talk about correlation between setting of the play, where it is set, what is the setting of a particular scene in the play, and what is the story. So we can say that a set of objects, a situation, a chain of events which shall be the formula of that particular emotion and which will evoke the same emotion from the reader. So to evoke the same emotion in the mind of the reader, the author must make a very good setting. And in this essay, Hamlet and His Problems, T.S. Eliot said that Hamlet was an artistic failure. That's a very famous quotation, that he said that Hamlet was an artistic failure because Hamlet was not able to follow objective correlative. I'll give you one example from Hamlet itself. You know that when Hamlet one day went to his mother's bedchamber, Gertrude, he found someone hiding behind the veil, someone hiding behind the curtain, and he thought that it was Claudius, and when he killed that man, it was Polonius. So now let us, this was the story. Now let us see the setting. The setting was something like very romantic. There was no horror, no sense of death. So just T.S. Eliot want to say that that was not the correct setting for murdering someone. There should be some horror scene, some scenes that should create the fear in the mind of the audience. Like that, there are several scenes in Hamlet which are not related, which are not correlating as the settings and the plots. I hope you have got the basic idea of this phrase.
Yes, sir.
Okay, here are two pictures. The first one indicates something and the second one is quite opposite of it. Now, if we want to do some shooting of movies, some romantic movies, and the first landscape, it will not be suitable because it's a kind of fearful, dreary scene, horror scene can be set here. But if I talk about the second picture, which is looking very beautiful, some pond is there, some greeneries, and a beautiful landscape is there. So this setting can be said as a very beautiful setting for the romantic shooting of the movies, isn't it? I hope I am clear about the objective
Yes,
correlative.
sir. The ghost is also there in the first scene, sir.
Pardon?
The lady ghost is also there.
Pardon?
The lady ghost is also there in the first scene, so it is not possible to portray a romantic scene there.
Very right, very right. Okay, so any doubt till now what we have seen? I'll show you one video so that this objective correlative will always be there in your mind. You can see the setting here, it's raining, the landscape behind, which is quite setting to the condition. So I just wanted to show that this is how the objective correlative is achieved in the fiction or in the plays. And now I'll show you one horror scene to just show you what is the difference between the setting and the story, what is the correlation between the setting and the story. And I'm very sure you'll never forget this objective correlative.